Okay, so we're asked in this question to think about an economy or a market that's originally in its long run equilibrium, but then there is a shock to people's income that's negative. A lot of people lose their jobs because there's a big recession caused perhaps by a financial crisis or a global pandemic. These things happen. All right, what is the effect on the prices and the number of firms in the market, the profits of the firms, and so on? So, first thing we need to do is set up our tools. And we're told that this is an economy that's in its long run equilibrium. So we've got our firm and we've got our market. And I'm going to try and do this fast. We've got demand out here. We've got, let's say, marginal cost like this. We've got average cost like so. We've got the long run supply curve right here. That's the long run supply. And then the supply has to be something like this if we're at the initial equilibrium. All right. So there is a negative income shock. A lot of people have lost their money, lost their jobs or something. What's that going to do to demand? Well, we are told that this is a normal good, which means people are going to buy a smaller amount of the good if they have less income. Okay? And that means for any amount, any price, a lower quantity is demanded. So we're going to shift this curve down. Okay? So the first thing that happens is that at the old price here, people aren't willing to pay anymore. They close their wallets. Okay? If we wanted to move all the products that are out there now, we'd have to practically give them away. Okay? So firms cut back their supply, okay? And they cut back and cut back and cut back until they get to a new price where the amount demanded equals the amount supplied, okay? So let's say this is P star, the long run equilibrium, and this is P1, the new one. So what does that look like? It looks like a bunch of firms that were initially producing at this Q star, cutting their production down here, all right? So all the firms that are still in the market are now producing a lot less than they previously were. Okay, they've all cut back supply. It's like the restaurants are not selling as much stuff; they're sitting mostly empty, and so on. Okay, not as many cars are rolling off the line. Whatever good we're thinking about, but here we are at this new equilibrium, and this is not a stable equilibrium. If this new demand curve is going to stay down here for the foreseeable future, then we need to start thinking about what happens in the long run. And in the long run, if firms don't expect this to just bounce back, they're all making negative profits right now because the price they get is less than their average cost. And that leads firms to basically give up. They leave the market and they close. As that happens, the supply curve begins to shift this way because there are fewer firms. Okay, so that means a lower quantity produced for any price. Maybe it's easier to see if I draw the arrow like this. So if that's the price, the quantity drops down to there. Eventually, it rotates through the new equilibrium. Okay, as firms leave, the price starts to climb because the supply disappears. Okay. And we end up back, the firms that survive end up back where they started in terms of what they're producing because that's the efficient level. The price ends up back where it was because that's the cheapest this good can be made. Okay, it can't for the long run be made any cheaper than that or firms go out of business. But there's just a lot fewer firms supplying a lot reduced demand. The only people left buying this product are those who previously would have been willing to pay a lot more because maybe they're wealthier or something. And so, what's the impact? If we map this all out, Q falls in short run and long run. We can see it goes from Q star to Q1 to Q2. Lowercase q falls in short run, but bounces back in long run. But that's, notice, only for the survivors, the firms that stay in the market. P falls in the short run, but again also bounces back in the long run. And what about the number of firms? N drops in the long run. Okay, so this is how, and I guess we can say profit is negative in the short run and then climbs back to zero. All right. So this is, sort of the full effect of how this negative income shock propagates through a market.